What does Texture Not Trivia mean? A Star Trek unboxing on Trekland Tuesdays Live with me, Dr. Trek, Larry Nemecek, coming to you right here from the heart of Trekland through Portal 47. Hey, for some clarity, sanity, and the big picture in things Star Trek. Happy Tuesday to everybody. Glad to see everybody once again. If you're new to us, hang on. Glad you made it. I'm going to pontificate here a little bit about something. I've got a surprise, something a little bit different today. Yes, an unboxing, or actually it's more like an unbagging. So hang on for that. We're going to talk about hashtags today and some other funky things. You hear me say hashtags a lot. You hear me say hashtag texture not trivia. After, there was a time when I was just contented. It was a big enough industry, just to bring the Star Trek background, just to interview folks and live on the inside and share what I could without getting, my hand slapped. But sharing all the stories of all the folks that had great stories, the creatives, that had no way to tell it because people only cared about what the actors would say. I mean, it was the 90s. It was a primitive time. Star Trek was exploding, and all those backstage folks had no way to get their stories out. Now, that's changed. A little thing now called an Instagram account. Don't just say, let's show it too. But even still that's not quite the same. And yes, folks do get invited to podcasts now and YouTube shows and much less conventions. It's still just a drop in the bucket. My point here is that a lot of folks still don't know how that dynamic works. The creative mind works for television and film, for screen, in the ladder of producers on top, creatives on the bottom. So yeah, texture not trivia was a phrase I came up with to talk about all the creatives who are forced to do something. I mean, it's a lot of things. But at the bottom line, a lot of people don't understand how the creatives on staffs, they have their name in the credits. They may even be the head of a department. But sometimes they're not the absolute final arbiter of especially major decisions. And that still goes up to the producers. But you know who gets the blame for it or the credit for it? Hopefully the credit too. The people that work in that department, visual effects and props and art department and costume wardrobing and even directing. Yeah, and especially the writers. The names you see on a writing credit are oftentimes not the final arbiters of what the final script looks like. Especially when it comes to like little tiny details. Sometimes that can be very benign, like, no, you're not naming that character for your mother. I'm going to name it for my mother, says the showrunner, head producer. That kind of thing happens. People don't realize that. They see a ship they don't like, they go attack the ship designer. They see a line they didn't like or a scene, they go attack the writer. Attack is a strong word, but it's gotten weird here in the last few years. But you know what I mean? They critique that person. Many times when that person, the last thing they wanted to do was what wound up on screen. But for the good of the service and the good of their own job, they can't come out and say, well, Michael Piller made me write that or whatever. Yeah, hashtag texture not trivia is one way to not explain that, but to react to it. To react to any error that we see. Now, in the last few years, headcanon is a phrase that's come along. I guess we always had headcanon. We just, like everything else, we didn't have a cute buzzword for it. Yeah, fine. Like in my headcanon, Janice Lester was crazy. And when she said, your world of starship captains doesn't admit women, it's like sometimes when people do the big me. You know how sometimes we have presidents that say you're attacking the country when all you're doing is attacking that one human? Well, Janice Lester, I always thought was feeling persecuted for herself. Kirk knew she was not his woman, not the type for him. She was probably also not the type, as she became more mentally ill, not the type for the service. So instead of it being about her, she just expanded that to be all women. I think that's kind of a consensus view. Anyway, that is a case of texture not trivia. It's a case where you see something you don't agree with in Star Trek, or any franchise for that matter. But I'm just saying grace over Star Trek, okay? It's either an egregious error that you and millions of other people see, or you and 47 other people see. Whatever the size of the audience, in your own head canon, not exactly head canon, it's in your head canon fixer. It's what we always called in the 70s and the 80s and the 90s, what I called canon smoothing and gap filling. Gap filling is innocuous. It's just something not stated. How do we come up with that? But canon smoothing is when you've got two conflicting ideas about something, or when something stands out as obviously wrong, or it started at the beginning and then was evolved into something else. I'm looking at you Spa. And we want to explain it because it's on film, so it must be true. That drives some people nuts. I say texture, not trivia. Texture, as in real life, is not perfect. We may have rules of operation. We may have standard operating procedures. We may have the way things are supposed to be. We may have the vast majority of times in science, name your field, much less human nature, sociology, whatever. But then there's that exception, the exception that proves the rule in social soft science. But in nature, we have the exception. We have the exception that doesn't, in the wrong hands, it could be an outliner. We have the albinos of a certain species. Yeah, and sometimes, depending on what it is and what the culture is and what the time period is, that may be a sign of someone thinks that's an imperfection that must be excised, sterilized, whatever. But most of the time, hopefully, and as we go along and we're more broad-minded, open-minded, and we respect the wonders of the universe, and we're not so locked into things being right or wrong, those anomalies, those moments that go against the grain, bring us texture, bring us greater truths, bring us more awareness of what creation is really all about. No, I don't mean the entertainment company, but what the universe is all about. And yeah, this gets into IDIC and infinite diversity and infinite combination. But sometimes it's not always a life form or a thing. Sometimes it's a notion. Sometimes it's a mood. As an actor, one of the first things I remember learning was, if it's a comedy, look for the moments of drama. If it's a dramedy, look for the moments of comedy, because that's how real life is. What goes against the grain? What's the fish swimming up sea? That's texture, because that's the way real life is. Nothing is ever perfect. Nothing is ever out of the mold. Even things out of the mold have imperfections, or they're not quite perfectly molded. So texture, not trivia, is the way to take oh my God, they screwed that up. And rather than rant on and on about it, especially since 2010, you've had your wonderful online mouthpiece here. Sure, call it out as being odd or weird, even a mistake. But step 2 of that process is to figure out, okay, how do we fix this? And I don't mean fix it by ban the episode or remove it from my watch list. You're free to remove anything from your watch list if it sets your teeth on edge. But if it's one particular concept or notion or idea, how do you make it fit? How do you make it fit? Rather than rant on and on about how wrong it was and how that creator, that writer, that designer should be shot and hung from the highest, I don't know, Starfleet base yardarm, how do you turn that around and make it fit? How do you create something greater out of that? That's what I mean by texture, not trivia. I mean, yes, process the fact that either factually or maybe in your headcanon, what just transpired totally goes against what you believe to be true. And then reflect about how, well, maybe everything I knew still is true, and so is this. It's a great way. For one thing, it's very entertaining. I mean, it's a great way to puzzle it out. And a lot of people go there naturally. A lot of fans don't go there naturally. And they get fixated on the thing being different. But there's always a reason. One of my favorite ridiculous texture, not trivias, one of my favorite, I mean, the word retcon came along later on, I think by the late 90s or whatever, to maybe replace my word canon smoothing. But retcon also feels like it's gap filling too. But canon smoothing is when you've obviously got something that you've got 2 or more points that need reconciliation. The thing is, as time moves on, you see where creatives go with something. Other times you have no idea what they were trying to do. Like the spelling of inoprovaline. I know that's in the weeds, but when you're doing concordances, you notice these things in scripts. Anyway, that's Texture Not Trivia. Now, the surprise that I really promised, I have a lot of other hashtags. They're little phrases that I've invented along the years. One of the first ones was the Viacom divorce. I do believe I was the first one in 05, 06, 07 to explain the whole division of Viacom that way. CBS going off one direction in one family under Sumner Redstone decided we're stronger without you than with you. It became two separate companies under that, and it was stronger as a triangle. It was stronger as a three-legged stool than separately. Paramount atrophied, and CBS increasingly became the corporation of a megalomaniac who was befelled finally into the Me Too. Les Moonves, and along the way made some pitiful choices. The way that all worked out for Star Trek, the TV Prime universe atrophied. The movies were done and kept an audience going, but there was no real, and we're seeing that now. There's maybe eventually we'll get there, but we're not seeing any natural interface between the two. And maybe we'll still have it. Maybe there's plans afoot. But it's been an odd fit, and meanwhile, TV has been left to come back on its own, and the Kurtzman era has given us what we have now. And say what you will about individual pieces of that, at least they are fairly cohesive as far as a strategy going forward. And yeah, I know, I'm not going there. I think Texture Not Trivia, even though it's tough at times, especially with Discovery, we'll get there. The more the years go by, the easier it will get, because there are more pieces in this puzzle, and there are more Scrabble tiles to make words with in this game of Star Trek. There was a tortured metaphor for you. What I wanted to announce, I've been talking about this forever. In a couple of weeks, this is going to be the focus of our third Tuesday special this week. But look at this. I have a bag here. I have a bag from TeePublic, because the Trekland store is open. You can go to teepublic.com. I didn't write down the address. The Trekland TeePublic store is open. There you go. But all of our shows and logos and brands and artwork are there now, or they soon will be. So this is awesome. I've got some shirts. There was a shirt sale last week. I tried to pass that along. We are going to, I think you can see one right there. Boom, in the front. I think you can tell there's a Trek Files shirt right there in the front. Yay! Oh, these are awesome. It's like Christmas morning. I have it on cream. How about that? Here's your, hey! There's a Trek Files t-shirt. I'm so excited, and I just can't hide it. I know a lot of people could care less about promo things like this and merch and all that, but a lot of people really get off on it. A lot of people are really excited. This is one reason why I'm excited. I can't wait to see what you all think. We're still fiddling with the designs, but on a very simple way, I wanted to have a set of Dr. Trek hashtag shirts. Boom, there you go. What do you think? So you're walking around a con like, and I wanted to claim things. I didn't want to like stomp on it, but I didn't want it to be too small either. And I didn't know if the sleeve, I had a think tank of people's opinions on this, whether a sleeve was better or the back, not the back. But anyway, the main thing was hashtag Texture Not Trivia is a conversation starter. And hopefully the person wearing it is a person that can fulfill on the meaning. Maybe even say, you should just go check out Larry's stuff. And of course, Trekwell, we may do this in several other versions too. Yay! The other one that I really like, I did a hashtag stack. See? Dr. Trek says, Texture Not Trivia, use the universe. Use the universe means don't be afraid of someone yelling at you and saying, fan service, fan service. I mean, if it's organic, think about things that are logical. Don't be gratuitous. But when some people, any little bit, now, like Lower Decks is meant to be fun. They They are plunging ahead with plenty of their own backstory, plenty of their own canon. And when it gets manic is when they're using a lot of references and call-outs to everything. Original series, next gen, you name it. And a lot of people are bashing that as fan service. But you know what? In the tone of the show, to me, they are using the universe. Yeah, don't shy away from it. Now, don't overdo it. And how do you find that balance? Well, that's why you're getting paid the big buck. But just as a trigger, any reference to anything else, people have a hard time getting outside the box of a series. I don't know. Having 7 on Picard seemed to rankle some people. Canon in a vacuum. Canon in a vacuum is you need something for your game or your story or your cosplay or your prop or your ship model or, yes, the episode you're writing for pay. Okay, or a fan fiction story. If there's nothing on screen for it, then what's the leading consensus? If you're doing something, whatever level you're trying to create an aspect of conceptual, written, or visual Star Trek, look around, see what others have done. You don't have to rip someone off unless there's a one-time use and you know, you can pay homage, but in a lot of ways, look around and see what the consensus is because Star Trek fans do that. Some people may jump out on their own because they don't like what's been done elsewhere in this concept or this design. Some people look around and see what's there and tweak it, or they build on it. They take that and they build on it, and now you're going to do the same thing. But as a fan, as a professional who's looking to do something and you're checking the universe, you're checking Star Trek lore to see what's been done before, and you find out, oh, this was in some professional pocketbooks, but it's never been on screen before. Well, that's, you know, where I'm seeing this in one of the 92 versions of Star Trek comics. Thank you, Memory Beta. Why not go and pick maybe what you think is the best or the most long-lasting or the most consensusly agreed to at that level before you bring it to screen? You don't have to be on the payroll to be doing that. You can do that with whatever you're doing. But that's what I call canon in a vacuum. Prime is not hard and canon is not scary, are the hashtags I came up with the Kelvin movies, and then into Discovery. So many people, Ira and Ron Moore, I'm looking at you, even thought that the next TV series should just eject everything because there'd been too much, and canon of Star Trek was just like an anchor around your neck. Aside from cleaning out my ears to make sure I'd heard those two icons correctly, came up with this: canon is not hard. Canon is not scary. And Prime is not hard. We have reference books to key. If you care, you can go check out anything. And then you can reject. You can take canon in a vacuum or you can reject it. But if you're taking on the responsibility, if you want to be an outlier and don't care what anyone else thinks, cool on you. But if you're building consensus, if you're wanting to fit in, and I don't mean fit in as in be complacent or comply. I mean fit in as in put a piece of the puzzle in, whether people are paying for it or not. If you're trying to fit in, Prime is not hard. It's easy to read. It's a lot easier now than it was 20, 30 years ago when nobody had done any encyclopedias or concordances. Canon is not scary. There's plenty. It's not a straitjacket. There's plenty. Look at all of our novelists manage to do it all the time. And more of the writers on staffs, looking at you, Mike McMahon, plenty of the writers on staffs are finding all kinds of ways to tell absolutely brand new stories and pull out canon bits all the time. Just merge. Just feel like it's a living, breathing universe that doesn't have weird artificial walls. And if for some reason you feel like you come across a weird artificial wall as you're enjoying a story or trying to enjoy a story, if that happens to you, you can go back to Texture Not Trivia and explain away the difference. Whatever you do, I just hope everybody can Trek well. That's the bottom line, right? And, you know, if Prime and canon make you want your head explode and all, you know, cool on you. Go do you. I would just say that I am not a Star Trek hog. I am not a Star Trek blinders on person as far as what else is out there, especially these days. You've got the Marvel Universe and the DC Universe. You've got Harry Potter post J.K. Rowling feeling sorted. You've got Star Wars. You've got Doctor Who. You've got so much out there and things coming along all the time. Some of the smaller franchises are, I don't know, the Librarians, Leverage. Simon and Simon. Whatever you really want to go back. My point is that I still think there is no franchise quite like Star Trek to have incredible characters, my 5 C's, right? Incredible characters, wonderful casting, commentary through it, a great concept, living in a future where we didn't blow ourselves up or poison each other, and we don't do that, hopefully, to others we meet. But most of all, a canon, a continuity that's made the whole thing cohesive, even with the groans, even with the because by the longevity of it all and the scope of it all, you can eventually find your way through to, texture, not trivia. I guess texture, not trivia also means when you find something that irks you or you really think isn't obvious, oops, point it out. Notate it, log it, sure. Just try not to spend the next 10 years of your life ranting and raving about it. And, maybe in the 80s, you could do that to yourself and your 5 unluckiest close fan friends. There's no reason to spend more than 5 or 10 minutes online. Just because you have the mouthpieces doesn't mean we really need to hear it over and over again. You're what the lay psychologists would call stuck on this. The puzzle, the wonderful thing would be to employ texture, not trivia, and figure out the greater reason why. Because when you explain away the thing going against the grain, you've opened the door to an incredible new line of reasoning, a story, a concept. You can go build on that, which is amazing. We groused about Rick and Brannon not getting the Vulcans right at the beginning of the Enterprise. And here along comes Manny's fix. Oh, look, they've been infiltrated and steered and manipulated away down a path. And now they're back to the true righteousness of Sirach. That's one kind of broad way of looking at it. It happens everywhere. It happens all the time. So just saying. I'm also just saying that I am, can you tell? I'm very proud of, the store, we have more than t-shirts. There's, coffee mugs, all kinds of things. Some of you may remember the really, I loved it. My Greetings from Trekland, original design for Trekland postcard. That's on a t-shirt now, but you can get, magnets and markers and coffee mugs and tote bags and all that kind of thing. But I thought on the occasion of having them that it was a good time to revisit where I came from. I didn't sit down and say, I'm going to think of 10 precepts today. It's just in talking about Star Trek, especially the last 10 years, especially past the time of, hey guys, here's some cool stuff you haven't seen yet. Hey guys, here's cool photos from folks that you haven't got to hear from yet, but they made your Star Trek. I mean, today, the ultimate expression of that is, yes, Portal 47. But I try to do it in everything I do. Whenever I talk at a convention as a solo presenter, that's all there. But the last 10 years or so, 15 years ago in social media, this almost could be a topic of itself. I got into you know what? I think I will. I'm going to save it for another day because we've been at this for a while. And I want to see if I've stirred anything up. Anyway, there's our unboxing or unbagging, guys. I hope that was fun. Share anything you see, everybody. Hey, and if you're on YouTube, share that too and subscribe, okay? I always want to thank, every week, our Patreon folks, our TTLers and our live wires. So once again, thank you, Blaze K, and Robin Wilson, and Lawrence Todd, and Anna Marie Siegel, Blake Arledge. Did I say Anna again? Anne Marie. I'm sorry. I'm giving you an extra syllable where you probably don't want one. Justin Porteous and Nathaniel Robinson. And our live wires, hey, Rusty Harrell, Hubbard Gunn Johnson, Jalen Bullock, Gary Mitchell. Did I say Gary Mitchell? I did. I've had Gary Lockwood on the brain. Gary Williams. Wow, today I'm losing it. Jared Cooper, Mr. Vestek, Robert McLean, and Casey Shafsky. Here's the Patreon card. Yay, $5 and $10 a month. I have a very simple system. Shout-outs and a shout-out and access to earlier interviews, which I need to get on the stick and do. Patreon.com/TreklandLive. Go there, check me out. And you know what? You may see somebody else's you want to support, too. Meanwhile, around the rest of Trekland, Life Support Live, 10 a.m. Pacific, 1 p.m. Eastern, 6 p.m. UK time, 7 p.m. Central European time. We're going boldly through uncertain times, geeking out on Star Trek and offering a little mental health sanity to everybody. The Trek Files is still on hiatus, but I hope you check out a past episode. We're looking to be back at our, one way or another, our new season next Tuesday. Every Tuesday again. There's 6 seasons up there, starting season 7 now at podcast.roddenberry.com, or just hit us on Facebook. Facebook is the one place you can get the paperwork, digital paperwork anyway, our documents that we talk about every week with a guest star from the real world. It's usually a person involved in the Star Trek professional community one way or another. Whoosh! We're coming up on our 150th episode. If you're headed to Vegas and you haven't done so yet, if you can get there for Tuesday morning, coming in Monday night probably, check out our Valley of Fire Kirk Memorial Tour with Geek Nation Tours. It's a one-day out to the film sites, led by me, film sites, and some other interesting Trek-related bits. Just check it out. It's the #1 upcoming tour at geeknationtours.com. And I'm going to say once again, we are offering this tour for Gene Roddenberry Centennial, the Think Trek Gene Roddenberry Centennial. It's a tour trek. It's the Great Birds Origin Tour LA. It's October 16th and 17th. You can write me at any time if you are interested. We're going to have a hotel option and a not hotel option. So get in touch. We'll sure splash the page when it's up. Okay, I need 6. I need 6 to have this tour make. It's 2 days. It's 2 days around LA. Hey, if you're with me on YouTube, thank you. Please subscribe. And if you're not with me on YouTube, go there and please subscribe anyway. But the YouTube is the same as my Twitter at Larry Nemecek. And if you're on Facebook right now, that's my Instagram, Larry Nemecek's Trekland. Portal47.net, of course, is the big baby where we have a mini-con all year long. That's what I mean when I say texture, not trivia. That's what I mean when I have some of the other hashtags. Other things may evolve. Your mileage may vary. I have some other little phrases that I do too. What exactly is an armchair fan? That's coming also. Meanwhile, folks, please, 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 please stay safe. Do all the things. Stay woke. And my woke means keep your eyes open. Check the sources of whatever it is you're reading. Be open to new information, even if it challenges what you've always known or thought you knew. And then when you do realize the truth, the whole truth, try not to get too angry about it. Just do something about it. I guess it's time to say Trek well for now. And please do.